tell the government to go play the traffic. They will say, we will put you in a cage if you don't pay your taxes. But no private business person can do that. You can just give them the middle finger. There would be no crony capitalism under President Ron Paul. That seems to define our economic system now. Real capitalism has been all but destroyed with the unholy alliance between business and government that has cropped up. It was even to me, as cynical as I am, it was shocking at the speed at which Republicans and Democrats rushed in to bail out failing businesses. I mean, one of the principal concepts about capitalism is that your profits are yours and your losses are yours. But under the regime that we live under now, the profits are yours and the losses are ours, taxpayers. That's fascism. That's not capitalism. And that's economic fascism. Bankruptcy is a very important part of a healthy economy. If I were to start up a lead tennis ball business, and no one wants to buy my lead tennis balls and play tennis with lead tennis balls, it's a good thing that I would go bankrupt, because the people that I employed would go and do things more productive, that would be more helpful to consumers. That's what the economy should be about. It should not be about bailing out losers and crooks on Wall Street. And as I said, both parties are guilty of that. All of Ron Paul's competitors in the Republican field supported the bailouts. He's serious when he says he would cut $1 trillion in government spending in the first year by eliminating entire departments, if at all possible. He would work diligently in doing that. He would not play the Washington game of saying, we propose to spend $2 billion more, but if we in reality spend only $1 billion more, we call that a $1 billion cut. No, that's not a cut, that's a $1 billion increase. That's called baseline budgeting. They even give it a fancy name, baseline budgeting. I have the real scientific name though is lying. That's the real word is lying. Ron would eliminate the ban on offshore drilling and allow American oil companies to drill for oil and compete with the Saudis. What a novel idea that would be. Rather than trying to conquer another Middle East dictatorship, we would let our own oil companies drill. And of course, that doesn't mean we're going to spill oil everywhere. We still have liability laws and we still have regulations, but we wouldn't have these crazy laws that say, we know there's 1,000 years of oil right here, but you can't drill it. And so you could have gasoline much, much cheaper under a Ron Paul presidency. As a result of that, he's in favor of eliminating the income tax altogether and replacing it with nothing. Whenever any of the other Republican candidates or Obama talk about tax reform, they always use the magic words, revenue neutrality. What that means is under no circumstances should the government ever take in a penny less than it does right now. It should always take in more. It's not true of you, it's not true of me, it's not true of any corporation in America. It's true of Washington, D.C., revenue neutrality. Whenever any of the other Republican candidates says this word, you should write that person off immediately, because he's been bought off as part of the Washington establishment. He has no intention of cutting back on government. He's lying to you. Ron Paul thinks, and he's right, when he ran last time, he said if we ended the income tax and didn't replace it with anything, we would be able to fund government at the level it was in 1997, which is true, and government was grossly overbloated and way beyond its constitutional bounds then, and had been for over 100 years. So just think of all that money, all those resources going back into the pockets of the people. That's what would create jobs. That's what would create no unemployment at all in the country. But what we're battling against, of course, is the Washington Wall Street establishment. It reminds me of a parade I went to in Georgetown, D.C. once. And the parade people, it was called the Gross National Parade. It's called the big funny remark that they have. And the parade people were all government bureaucrats for the most part. And the one group of them wore raincoats, ankle-length raincoats. It looked like they were naked underneath. You could see the skin up here and the skin down there. And they flashed the crowd. All at once, they all flashed the crowd, and they all had signs around their necks that said, "Cut taxes." And the crowd all shrieked in horror, because this is D.C. It's the club, it's part of the club. If you want a D.C. bureaucrat to shriek in horror, just say, "Cut taxes." And it'll do it. And that's what Ron Paul is going to do. He wants to eliminate the capital gains tax altogether, as well as the death tax. He would increase defense spending by decreasing offense spending. He wants a national defense policy that would defend Americans, period. That's the purpose of his national defense. He would make the Army stronger, being a lifelong physician. He would also do, I think, more than anybody to take care of veterans in terms of their health care. He wouldn't just talk about it. He's serious. He's a doctor. He's delivered over 4,000 babies. He's delivered pro bono care for 30 years. He even delivered babies in hospitals in D.C. while he was a member of Congress on Saturdays in London when Congress was on session. And he's really serious. He's a veteran himself. He was drafted in the Air Force, even though he had a wife and 2 babies at the time, and he could have taken the deferment in 1962, but he went to the Air Force. Unlike Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney. If you saw the last debate, you saw Gingrich sort of whimpering that, well, I was married, I couldn't go. I think he lost a lot of support when he said that. And so we would not be the rulers of the world. After all, this is not the Soviet Union. In our defense spending, we would not have 135 military bases in 135 different countries in the world. We would use our defense to defend us, not make money for corporate defense contractors. That, of course, is exactly why Ron Paul gets more than double the contributions from active duty military people than all the other candidates combined. More than double. These are men and women who signed up to defend their country, and they get there and they realize it's a farce. There's nothing they're doing defending their country for the most part. And that's why they support Ron Paul. And that's why you should too. And that's why they give him the money. There was a famous Supreme Court decision right after the Civil War. It was called Ex parte Milligan, 1866. It made a very important point. It said that in times of emergency like wartime, it is especially important then to protect our civil liberties, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and so forth, because that's the time when governments throughout history have taken advantage of the emergency to destroy our liberties, not just temporarily, but sometimes for good. That has been going on with the Patriot Act and this new defense authorization bill now that allows the military to detain people indefinitely without due process. That would end. There's no way that would end under a Ron Paul presidency. What a farce to have military people take an oath to defend the Constitution, and then they have their government at the same time shred the same Constitution for them, so that when they come back home, their liberties are reduced, not enhanced, despite their efforts. He, of course, would insist on a declaration of war, to have a war, and the main purpose of that, according to the Founding Fathers, was so that the people would be behind it. The war would not be started by 2 or 3 people in a closed room. The congressional representatives would have to vote for up or down on the war, and that's how we would get into any war. He believes in the Christian just war theory that says that the only just war really is a defensive war, offensive, aggressive wars, many of which we have commenced in our country, would be illegitimate, and we would not participate. We would defend ourselves, but we wouldn't be a worldwide crusader. All foreign aid would be ended altogether. Ron's slogan is that foreign aid robs poor people in rich countries and gives the money to rich people in poor countries. It does worse than that. It does worse than that. It enriches dictators. Money goes to governments. It enriches dictator after dictator. And then when they use the money, though, to prop up big government in their countries. And so not only do we prop up dictators, like the former Shah of Iran, for example, that didn't really work out for us very well, did it, in the long run? And then not only that, but we prop up big government in those countries. Go to second speaker here. We prop up big government in those countries, thereby impoverishing them. There are some American beneficiaries of foreign aid, though. It's the corporations who sell tractors and things like that, agricultural products, to the government, which then gives it to foreign countries. So a lot of what foreign aid is really corporate welfare, sort of underground or backhanded corporate welfare that ends up benefiting International Harvester or something like that. When they say, Egypt will give you $1 billion to buy tractors, but you have to buy International Harvester tractors. It's good if you're an International Harvester, but it's not good for the average American. And that's what foreign aid does.
International Harvester employs the average American.
Sure, the free market. Sure, they should.
From the Midwest to London, gets on the plane and takes this, come on.
They should use their own money if they want to help the Egyptians out. They shouldn't use my money. If you want to send your money to Egypt, man, God bless you. I keep my We have a Q&A in a minute. We'll have a Q&A in a minute. So, a few more things, a few more points to make. The drug war has had consequences almost identical to alcohol prohibition. It's a major cause of violent crime in the cities. It has induced thousands of young children to get involved in the drug business. It has not reduced drug use. It's become such a farce that there's a band in Delray Beach where I live. Every time the train goes by on the railroad tracks, one of the lead singers says, "There goes the cocaine train to Miami." Everybody kind of laughs at it. But seriously, we live in a drug-infested society despite 30 years of this drug war. It has corrupted the police, it has corrupted the judicial system. The drug war has made drugs more profitable for drug dealers by causing the price to go up. And so Ron Paul is in favor of doing what Franklin Roosevelt did. Franklin Roosevelt ended prohibition. Ron Paul would also end prohibition of our day and get rid. And I would expect the violent crime in the cities like Miami would be cut almost eliminated. And most of it is drug related. I've talked to a lot of police and a lot of people around the country who tell me it's not unusual for some county jails to have 90% of the people in there drug-related crime victimless. Drug-related crimes. I guess I'm almost out of time, but of course Ron Paul has also been a champion of the Second Amendment his whole career, his whole life. He gave a talk at the university I taught at 2 years ago, and he made the remark that the reason why you're safe in your home is not because the police are driving around in circles in your neighborhood, but because of the Second Amendment. And the university administrator, I videotaped all the speeches like this and I put them on the website of the university. But the university administrators told me there was technical difficulty right at that point. So they didn't want the tender ears of the students to know that there was another side to the debate in America over gun control. And that's how the universities operate. But Ron has been a very powerful defender of the Second Amendment, and he certainly would continue that. If you come into office. And of course, he's a doctor by profession. He would move the healthcare business, which I would argue is the most heavily regulated and government-controlled business in America already, before Obamacare. It's strangled by regulation from all three levels of government, and that is a big part of the problem. And so a freer market in healthcare would go a long way toward helping us. In the state of Maryland, where I taught for many years, for example, to sell health insurance, there are 67 mandates mandating that you have to cover this, you have to cover, I think you even have to cover hair weaving in order to get a license to sell health insurance in the state of Maryland, because the hair weavers have a lobbyist, they hired a lobbyist. And so, I mean, that's just one small example of how, as expensive as healthcare is, it's free market competition that will go a long way to solving the problem, not socialism, which is really what Obamacare is leading to, healthcare socialism. Anyone who thinks healthcare socialism is a good idea for the healthcare market is either a dunce or a liar, I think. And so, but if you want totalitarian control of your country, let's go along with healthcare socialism then, because when the government can tell you whether you're going to live or die, they've really got you, don't they? They can really control everything, just about everything you do. And I think I was asked to talk for 20 minutes, and I think my time is about up. It's sort of a short overview. But Ron Paul's basic objective, he thinks Americans and their government should be pursuing liberty, prosperity, and freedom. We shouldn't be pursuing world domination or micromanaging of hundreds of industries like Newt Gingrich apparently wants us to do in his many, many speeches. And I think that's about it for now. Marcus can give us further instructions.
Okay, folks, we're going to open up, give me a little less on the master on the back there. Just a little less. There you go. What we're going to do is we're going to open up for some Q&A at this point. We're going to do maybe 5 or 6 questions. Folks, keep in mind, questions, keep them relevant. We want to set the example. We don't want to be like the other side, like the Democrats that ask boxers or briefs. We don't want any of that stuff here. So let's keep them questions germane to the issues. Keep things relevant to the candidacies. And first question is going to be right over here.
Yeah, my name is Frank Allegro. I'm an activist involved with the Ron Paul campaign here in South Florida. And my question is, I guess it's more of a legal question in macro terms, is it possible for the American people, or say a handful of Ron Paul supporters, like 600,000 across the country, to legally issue a lawsuit to congressmen or congresswomen or senators that they are violating this document, and can that possibly go to the Supreme Court?
The answer is no. The original American system of separation of powers, with the 3 branches, the idea was supposedly that the 3 branches would compete against each other and would moderate the influence of any one branch. The judicial branch wouldn't be over